This podcast doesn't really have an introduction. Welcome to Zeb's Dead. That's just what it's called. It's not morbid or macabre. It's just called that. It's not like supposed to be some big dark thing or whatever. It's just that's the name I picked. Probably because people say that to me because they watch what's that movie with John Travolta and Sam Jackson? What is that movie called? I can never remember. You know it. You all know it. It's got Uma Thurman. And there's a cool dance scene. It's a Quentin Tarantino film. Pulp Fiction. Bruce Willis, right? So in that movie, which I don't really remember very well, I probably watched it. I don't know when it came out, but I feel like I watched it 20 years ago, maybe more, right? Let me look. When did that movie come out? That movie, 1994. So shit, 25 years ago. So yeah, of course, I don't remember what the hell. I mean, there's some pretty iconic scenes. But specifically, sorry about the squeaky chair. That's just the way that is. That's just going to be like that today because I didn't put any WD-40 on it in a while, and after a while it starts to squeak again. Because that's what it is. You're going to have to just deal with it, and I'm going to have to. We're dealing with it together. It's not like something I'm doing to you. But so people, there's a scene in Pulp Fiction where they say Zed's dead. Zed, Z-E-D. D as in dog. But a lot of people over the years, when they find out my name is Zeb, they like associate with that and they say Zeb's dead. I'm not. And it's not accurate to the movie, but I get it. So that, and then also, you know, I'm 41. I'm pretty grown. The older you get, the more I think you need to kind of start to come to grips with issues of mortality. Not just your own, obviously, but people around you. As you get older, more and more people are going to start to pass away. And that's something that I struggle with, as I imagine most people do. Obviously, people have their own ways of dealing with that kind of stuff, but it's something that's on my mind. So I felt like the name Zeb's Dead kind of, you know, just a play on things that people have said to me over the years, and the fact that that kind of stuff is becoming more and more prominent in my life as I get older. So that's why I named the podcast Zeb's Dead. It's not any kind of nothing weird, Mom. Okay, if you see these words or you hear these words, don't freak out about it. It's not meant that way. It's not serious. It's not real. This is just a podcast that I started as a way to sort of talk myself through some of the things that I'm dealing with. Positive, negative, humorous, not humorous. I mentioned on the first episode that I do multiple other podcasts, and I didn't really get into any details. I imagine if you're listening to this, you probably already know what I'm talking about, but just in case you're somebody new who stumbled upon this and isn't familiar with me or what I do, not like I'm important. That's not what I'm trying to say, but it feels so weird to talk about yourself. But I started with my buddies, Abba and Chase. We started the Triple B podcast. We're 4+ years strong. We've got 114 episodes out. It started as a podcast. Actually, it started as not even a podcast yet. What we decided to do was once a month or so on a Saturday afternoon, we were going to go out and just be buds. You know what I mean? Go and kind of dig into our nostalgia and the things that we're into. Go to check out toy stores and comic book shops and go see movies and go eat. Originally, it was go get a good burger. In between, you try to eat healthy and you try to make those good, healthy decisions. But we're like, you know what? One day a month, let's go do something. Let's go enjoy ourselves. What's the point of all of it if you're not going to enjoy yourself sometimes, right? So we decided to do that. And then on the back end of it, we were like, what if we made it into a podcast? So that's what we did. We came in here into my studio and we sat down and we recorded I think it was about 45 minutes maybe, just talking about what we did that day and why we were doing it and kind of explaining what we were into. And even though Chase isn't necessarily into those same things as much as we are, he's got a interesting kind of quirky personality, and I think he brings a lot of fun to the whole thing. So that podcast, it's evolved. We're not necessarily so much doing the we're not so much doing the thing that made it fun anymore. We're sort of just doing the podcast. Not so much going to the stores and doing the eating and all that stuff anymore, but that's okay. It's fine. We do that stuff sometimes still, and we have a great time when we do it. But we also just, learn to enjoy podcasting. So check that one out, triplebpodcast.com. It's going strong. We have a small but fairly dedicated listener base. Things are pretty consistent over there. Obviously, we'd like to grow them still, but things are okay. And then, shortly after that started, a couple of my buddies that I met on Seahawks.net, Sam and Ross, approached me about doing a weekly Seahawks podcast during the football season. Sammy lives in Seattle, Ross lives in Tokyo, and I'm in Portland. So that's remote. We do that remotely, online. We basically online voice chat with each other, and we record an hour to an hour and a half every Wednesday night during the football season, and then here and there during the off season. And we just talk about the Seahawks, how the last game was, what it's looking like for the next game, what the overall season's looking like. And that's going strong. That's going well. And then, I don't know. I always felt like I wanted to branch out a little bit and try something a little bit different. So you can go to hawkscast.com for that one, by the way. I approached my cousin Elijah, who is one of my best friends. I mentioned him on the last podcast. We just got back from our trip to Southern California in Disneyland, which was a blast. I'll tell you more about that. But I said, what if we do just a two-person, a one-on-one, in-studio podcast where we can talk about kind of whatever we want to, but I think our biggest things that we have in common tend to revolve around tech in some form or another. We named the podcast Awesome and Not Stupid. I don't know that that's necessarily the most relevant name to the content, but I think it's cool. And we're not tied down to talking about tech. We talk about whatever we want to talk about. And we like to talk about stuff that we think is awesome. So Awesome and Not Stupid, which you can go to awesomenotstupid.com for that one. That's a little bit slow going. Our schedules don't always match up so well, so that can go from being weekly to monthly, just depending on how things are at that time. But so those are the three other podcasts that I do, and now I'm trying this one out, which is just me, which is interesting and difficult because it's just you. Like it's one thing when you have somebody to bounce other stuff off of. Somebody else can bring something up, and then all of a sudden there's a new subject to talk about. When it's just you, it's like you gotta come up with this stuff on your own. You know. Hold on, I gotta grab my drink. I'm drinking a Bai antioxidant infusion watermelon flavored beverage, a low calorie beverage that contains 30 milligrams of caffeine per serving from what I believe they call coffee fruit extract. Not really sure what that means, but I drink these fairly regularly. I like them. I think they're tasty. I particularly like the strawberry lemonade one, but the watermelon one and the blueberry are good as well. There's others. There's a tangerine. There's a coconut. There's more than that. I can't remember. Dragon fruit or some passion fruit, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, they're tasty. I recommend them. Buy. You might have seen the commercial with, I think, NSYNC or Justin Timberlake or somebody going buy. But I digress. So we went to Disneyland. My cousin and my other cousin and my aunt and Universal Studios. And then a third day where we just kind of went around LA, went to Venice Beach, went to Santa Monica, went to the Korean Friendship Bell Park. Had a great time. It was a good time. Going into Disneyland for the first time in close to 30 years was a lot of fun. I mentioned, I talked pretty extensively on the last episode of Triple B podcast about it, but you don't really appreciate, I don't think, or maybe I'm sure everybody's experience is different, but for me, when I was in the park, in the moment, it's kind of hard to. There's so much going on. It's kind of hard to really soak everything in and kind of appreciate what you're experiencing. You're like going from one thing to the next thing, trying to decide what to do next, looking at wait time, spending a lot of time waiting in lines, obviously. Eating shitty food. It's pretty rough. The stuff I had, at least. There's other restaurants we could have tried, but I guess you don't know until you're sitting down eating the meal whether it's going to be any good or not. But no, a few days removed from the trip, back home, back to work, back to, it was actually pretty decent weather up here. So it wasn't a super difficult transition, but you miss it. You start to think about it. You're like, not only are you thinking, I wish I'd have done this, I wish I'd have done that. I didn't get to go on the Indiana Jones ride or Space Mountain, Star Tours. It's a Small World. There's all sorts of stuff we didn't get to do because there just wasn't enough time. But also just that kind of, that feeling of there's something about it. There's a reason why it's so popular and they call it the happiest place on earth. And it's because it's just a way to it's a different world, right? You leave all whatever's going on in your life behind you for a few hours or for a day. And you go into a world that's based on all this stuff that made you happy as a child. And I think Disneyland is for kids, obviously, but it's for the kid inside of the adult as well. Lots of adults there, lots of young adults. It was kind of surprising to me. Lots of what I imagine are local people, young couples that just look like they're probably in their early 20s, just in there together. Like it's not something I expected, not something I thought about, the people that are like 24, 25. Let's go to Disneyland for the day. Like I went when I was 10 and 13, and then I didn't go when I was 25. I didn't think I wasn't like, let's take a trip to Disneyland. I guess it just not something you really, maybe some people do, not me. I didn't think about it. And now that I'm, once I got closer to 40, then I started to think about it again. I'd like to go back there, experience some of the things that I experienced when I was a kid. And also the new stuff. Things that have changed. See what's different. And that's exactly, it's some of the things are literally exactly the same. And then some of the things are brand new and cool. And going into Galaxy's Edge, Star Wars land, was just awesome. And I can imagine it's only going to get better as they add more. They got a second ride opening up in January. I saw some clips on a YouTube video that showed some things that I didn't see. So they must be adding to it still, maybe. Or maybe there's the one in Florida at Disney World, which I've never been to Disney World, but from what I understand, it's a whole different experience. A much larger area, more parks, different things. So maybe it'd be worth it to go check out that. I don't know, Florida. Do you want to? I've never had a desire to go to Florida. I don't think. It just seems terrible. I think for somebody who's grown up in Portland and Seattle, the idea of Florida is somehow off-putting. Maybe that's weird. Maybe I'm being weird, but it just doesn't seem like, because when you live up here, when it gets hot and sometimes it gets muggy, and people always say, you think this is muggy? Go check out Florida or New Orleans or whatever. And then I'm like, well, I don't want it to be worse. Why would I want to? I don't like it. Why would I want to go into all that? I'm a dry heat guy, man. I'm out west. I'm a Western. Being in LA the other weekend, it was like 89 degrees and sunny. And, I think it got up even into the low 90s. But it was great. It was hot, sure, but it was fine. It wasn't muggy. There was no humidity. It was easy. Stay hydrated and get in the shade when you can. No big deal. But when it's muggy, there's no escaping it. It's like being in boiling water. No, thank you. Not for me. But yeah, so Star Wars. It was cool to be down there in visiting Galaxy's Edge for the first time, the same weekend that they dropped the final trailer for The Rise of Skywalker, which is the next Star Wars movie that comes out at the end of December, Christmas time. It added to the whole feel of everything. The atmosphere was very, my atmosphere is always Star Warsy anyway, because that's just the way I decided to live. But it just added to that. It was fantastic. It made you think about all the cool stuff. Getting a picture in front of the Millennium Falcon. I bought a pair of Han Solo dice and a sabacc set. And it's funny about those things. Not to nerd out on you too hard, but the Han Solo dice and the sabacc cards, none of those things were relevant or prevalent in the original Star Wars trilogy. I guess during the filming of the original Star Wars movie, there was a pair of dice, but they didn't make it into the film. They were just on the set. And then I guess Disney decided when they were doing the Han Solo movie, decided to bring those back and make them part of the canon, and they used them in The Last Jedi. I don't know if they brought them back for Solo or The Last Jedi, or just somehow it was a joint decision, but it gave them a thing to sell, right? All you got to do is put a little bit of lore item into the movie, and then everybody's going to want to buy it. So smart, right? So I bought a pair of dice, bought a sabacc set, and then I went to the Droid Depot, the Build-A-Droid, and I built a little R2 unit, and it's really awesome, actually. I'm looking forward to taking it up for the holidays, up to see the family and playing with it with the nieces. So that's cool. And I got him at the studio, and I turn him on and I run him around a little bit here and there, and I have a good time. Who cares? I'm having a good time. That's all I care about. I'm handling business, and when I'm not handling business, I'm having a good time. That's what I want life to be. What's the ratio? What ratio should it be between handling business and having a good time? And when I say having a good time, that includes a lot of things, not just goofing off, but like visiting family and friends and relatives and, getting that holiday time in and doing just anything that's basically anything that's enjoyable, that's not working, having a good time, taking it easy. What's the ratio? What should it be? I feel like in the United States, we put so much. I can only speak for my experience in this country. I don't know what life is truly like on a day-to-day anywhere else in the world. I haven't studied cultures like that. I don't really know. But in the United States of America, I feel like we put far too much time and effort into handling business. I think our lives revolve around our work, being successful, making money, being financially not even stable. I don't know. I think that's a kind of a weird abstract concept anyway, being financially stable. If being financially stable means having the money for the thing that you need the money for when you need the money for it, then that's there. I think there's a lot of levels to that, right? The more money you make, the more your cost of living goes up, your standard of living, right? And so you're always, unless you're booty butt rich with hundreds of thousands or millions in the bank, you probably feel like it's a bit of a struggle no matter what, no matter how much you're making, right? I don't know. But I feel like as somebody who's made it a point to not worry so much about money, to not make my work my life, to make sure that I do things that I enjoy, I still feel like my life revolves around making sure that I got money coming in. And that sucks. That's not fun. Is that how it's supposed to be? Is that how we're supposed to live? I mean, it used to be work to live meant farming or hunting, like actual, if you want to eat, you have to grow food or you have to find food. Now it's, I have to do a thing that makes me money so that I can buy food and afford to see. I would afford to pay for a vehicle that will get me to and from the place that I go to make the money to afford the vehicle, right? Like, I don't know. I wonder. I bet some people found the balance. Maybe they got lucky. Maybe they made all the right decisions. I feel like if you worked 4 hours a day and you made $100 an hour, then that, to me, that would be the balance. But then again, I'm still centering it on how much money is being made, right? Like, I don't know. I don't feel like this is how it was supposed to be. I feel like life is supposed to be about doing the things you enjoy. And again, I'm not talking about completely fucking off and getting loaded and sleeping all day, and then being just lazy and watching TV and playing video games. I'm talking about getting out there, doing enjoyable things, being around the people you like being around. Sure, there's time for fucking off. There's time for for being lazy, for lounging, having some drinks, smoking a little bit, but I think ultimately the goal would be to find a way to be out there enjoying life, not worrying about having to be somewhere at a certain time so that you can have enough money to pay for your car insurance and your medical insurance and your rent and your bills. But that's the way life is. At least here. I assume it's the same everywhere else to some degree. I've spent some time in Italy, very, very little, but I get the feeling. Of course, now, when you're on vacation, life is different, right? And when I've been on vacation in Italy, I think the people that I was with were kind of on vacation too, because if not, they don't do shit over there. And I think maybe there is something to that. I feel like they make it more important to relax and enjoy your time and not just constantly hustle and bustle. I don't know. I'm sure there's people over there who do nothing but work as well. But I feel like in Europe, they generally have a better grip on lifestyle. Like I said, I'm sure there's people that are over there working their asses off, doing the same thing we're doing here. And I'm sure there's people that are fucking off all their responsibilities. And I'm sure the same things happen. But I just feel like our ratio's off. My ratio's off. And I've thought of myself as somebody who wasn't working enough. And I've been that way. I've gone through that part of my life. And now I feel like all I do is work. And I sprinkle in a vacation here and there, and that's supposed to keep you happy. That's your break. I feel like we're supposed to have more breaks. I don't know. See, I have no idea what this podcast is about. No idea. I just rambled for like a half hour. I don't even know if any of it was worth listening to. But I did it anyway. And I think I'm going to continue to do it. And maybe it doesn't matter. But maybe it does. If all it does is help me get through some of my thoughts and put some of my thoughts into words and some of my ideas into to help manifest them into reality, then maybe that's all it's for. So on that note, I suppose it's time to get to work. I hope your ratio is where you want it. Thanks for listening.